Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ryan Swo podcast. My name is Ryan Swokowski. Welcome. Today, we have two very special guests joining our show. We have Pastor Jonathan Fries from Music Life Church, Appleton. Hello, Pastor Jonathan.
Hi, Pastor Ryan.
And hello. And we have Pastor Joel Swokowski from Music of Life Church, Kimberly. How are you doing tonight, Pastor Joel?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing the podcast. I've enjoyed them so much, and I love just how they've helped me, but I know the impact that they've had on other people. So keep doing what you do. Thank you so much. Today, you guys are joining me because we're going to preview season 3 of the What the Flock and Malk podcasts.
Yeah.
Or Pastor Jonathan. Is that it? All right. You do it way better.
Oh, pretty good. You just got to really get after it, man. You got to pretend like there's no kids in the house and just let it rip.
I'm going to use that as an excuse. I got 2 of them trying to sleep right now. So
Yeah. And not being afraid to hurt people's feelings or to cause any pain by really drawing that flock out as long as you can.
yes, that's great. That's great. But yes, we are here to preview season 3 for you guys. But first off, I do want to say, holy man, season 2 was fantastic. Thank you guys so much. The topics that you guys did, the 6-part series of God's nature to the depression, sin, repentance, many more topics that you guys touched on, and we're so good. So I want to say thank you to that. But let's jump right in. We're going to preview season 3 today. So you guys have been doing this for 2 full seasons, season 3 around the corner here. I want to ask you guys, how have you two improved as podcasters? And has your process changed in terms of prepping these things? So either one of you, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think season 2, we hit our groove. That's kind of been one of the themes we've been hitting in our interviews on this season's press tour. And so from season 1 to season 2, there was definitely a big change, just I would say in our confidence and just being podcasters, also in our confidence of what a season ought to look like, because season 1 was a lot of standalone type episodes, where season 2 there was a theme we hit. And I think that's one of the big areas we've improved on is having some vision for where this podcast is going, not just in what we're doing every episode, but in this goal we're headed towards. And, you know, within that, of course, every time we do this, we get a little bit better. Just at, you know, I could also explain all the small picture stuff is in specific details of like the actual prep work we do. I think we have a really great process. I think one of the big things that happened in season 2 isn't necessarily any changes we've made. It's just maybe it not taking as long to do the prep work as it used to. So that's really season 2, I think, hitting our groove and really learning what it is we're doing as podcasters is the biggest change that we experienced so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely started to relax in season 2. You know, like Pastor Joel was saying, it's perfect. Like we hit our groove, we hit a stride. And what I feel like, you know, for me, it's season 2 just started to get a lot more enjoyable. Like since the foundation was developed, there was something to build off of. So I don't think I felt a lot more relaxed that we actually had something good. Because we had a whole season, you know, done, and it was really enjoyable. We wanted to continue to do it, and we wanted to continue to make more seasons. And so what I feel like really happened was while we were filming, while we were recording, I started to understand more of what the purpose of the Music of Life Church podcast was about. where I think What the Flock got a lot tighter. We stayed, it definitely had a flow. We felt like we want to stay on this track.
Mm.
You know, the show, so much of the show is when Pastor Richard Tater calls us up.
Mm.
And we're just really excited for him to call.
Yeah.
And then I think during the What the Flock, I have a ton of thoughts about all of these different things that I want to talk about that maybe aren't specifically related to the topic, but they branch off to help people, help the people who've been hurt by the church. So I feel like the Music of Life Church podcast got very enjoyable and is continuing to be enjoyable for me because I do a lot more talking.
Sweet.
In the Music of Life Church podcast, especially. So
yeah. And we see that, you'll see that. I mean, we can talk a little bit about season 3 here. You see that in season 3. I think what you start seeing in season 3 is we're figuring out more what the Mulk podcast becomes more like. I think the stuff me and Pastor Jonathan really want to share, it's the stuff we want to talk about. It is for leaders. It's technically a focus on leaders to learn why we're saying what we're saying in the What the Flock podcast. But a lot of it is really, what are all the things we really want to talk about that just would be off brand for us to talk about it in the other podcast.
Sure.
And just maybe sometimes it's just too much. But another big thing that happened for those very, very early listeners, it was in the middle of season 2 was when we really did hit this stride and we really did kind of become the podcast that we are, is that we were encouraged to branch out and actually use a podcast hosting site instead of just posting our podcast on YouTube. So we did reach some success, and we're reaching some people to the point where we were given encouragement to try to find what's the best way we can get more of the word out. And we did that in season 2. We did find, we found a podcast hosting site and kind of republished our episodes, and now it's just game on from there. So some exciting things happen in season 2. I'm remembering now that we're talking about it right now. So
you bet.
I'm pretty excited for season 3.
That's right. And did I hear that it's international now as far as like the reach too of these podcasts?
It is international.
Incredible.
I actually just looked this morning and we have a hit in Japan that happened recently. So
wow, that's amazing.
Cool.
That's so cool. Good work, guys. So, and Pastor Jonathan, I think it's really cool. Like, probably something I want to be more aware of going into season 3 is seeing maybe this adjustment that you might have within your role of the the Music Life Church podcast too. So that's going to be interesting to see going forward. So thank you for sharing that. So
I do all my dad ranting in the Music of Life.
Nice. Oh, great.
That's our rant.
That's
it's the rant podcast.
It is. It's like, okay, the only thing we can't talk about are future episodes. But in terms of opinions and game on, it's What the Flock. I would say What the Flock is a podcast, but it is also a show. There's very much of a show element to it. Music of Life Church podcast is like kind of a more traditional podcast where it's like, where are we going, Pastor Joel? Or like, it's like, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
We usually don't have any notes. There's no notes. It's just it's just like, okay. Let's just talk. It's the most like a podcast, but it's also the most like me and Pastor Jonathan just sitting on his couch, hanging out, talking about these things together.
Nice.
So it is the most natural for him and I too. You get a lot of that in the What the Flock podcast, but the What the
Sure.
Flock podcast is definitely structured. There's a certain thing we're hitting. There is a certain structure to each episode, where the Milk podcast is pretty much free game.
Man. Yeah, and Pastor Jonathan's rants, he's so sweet and nice. It's like that. I'm glad you're telling me, because it might be hard for me to be aware of Pastor and rants sometimes. So you're so nice.
Yeah, it's just I raise my voice and talk a little quicker.
Sure. It's like,
Yeah.
Did I come across?
And I talk over people is what happens too.
Got it. Oh, that's great. So guys, this is awesome. So, whoa, what's that noise? Oh, you know what time it is? It's our weekly segment. It's our mail session of the episode. Yes. So this is an opportunity where, we do this every week on the Ryan Spo podcast. I read a letter from one of my listeners. Yes, my listeners still mail me letters.
Nice.
So let's see what we got here. So, I love this part of the show. It's like one of my favorite segments that we do. Oh, geez. All right. What do we got here? We have Susie from Albany, New York, state capital of New York. What a great town. I have a big following there. So, all right. She writes, "Hey, Ryan, longtime listener. Love the show." So sweet. I have the best listeners, I swear.
Yeah, it sounds like your listeners love you, man.
They love me.
Way to go.
So, I have a question for you that maybe you could ask the PJs. Absolutely. Could you ask them, how do you feel about interacting with Pastor Tater now compared to season 1? Once again, I love the show. Thank you, Susan. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. So, how do you guys feel about it? Pretty
Great question, Susie.
Yeah, that's great.
Of course I feel great. I love seeing the growth. I love seeing an older pastor actually show some humility and admit where he's wrong. But the biggest thing that I feel and think is I have a little hope, because I have a lot of experience interacting with pastors who were like him in season 1 and who are like he was in season 1. And it's very, very rare, if ever, that the response from an interaction like we have had with him results in what he has done, especially in season 2. So it's pretty incredible to see where he came from and where he's gone in such a short amount of time. So I feel some hope, and it's pretty awesome. So I love it. I love every time he calls. It gives us fuel to talk more. And that is one way that is like in the What the Flock podcast, where we're kind of, it's kind of a free for all. It's like, we don't really know what's going to happen. It's when he calls, we got to just be ready to improv with whatever the call is going to be. So it's pretty incredible. I love Pastor Tater's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like so much of getting the restoration process and having that foundation, and there's just so much more fun to be had. Like that's this feeling, that Pastor Tater's on, where it's like, can we just, like, we don't need to fight each other.
Yeah.
Like, we want him to be happy. We want him to have an amazing marriage with Mrs. Tater. We want him to just have all of this energy. Like he's a guy that calls up who has all of this energy, and we love that. Like that is exciting.
Yeah.
He feels to us like he has an incredibly fast brain. He wants to teach us, and we want to be taught by him. All we're trying to do is help him get in the right spot so that he can be more himself, so that he can share more of himself, and we will have a better time. And so that's, I think, the natural progression of where we're going and with the people that have gone through the restoration process.
Yeah.
We don't sit there and say, okay, now that you've gone through the restoration process, we're going to tell you what to do and we're going to turn you into someone that's more like us. It's like, no way. We want Pastor Tater to be more like himself.
Yeah.
We want him to have more energy and be more excited and teach more and encourage more and just fly and be ridiculous and crazy and insane and himself. So that's what we want. And so to be able to see that and experience that, I think I completely agree with Pastor Joel. It gives us hope.
Oh, that's great. Absolutely. And you're right. Like, as I reflect on him too, just, he seems like a ball of energy when he comes on. He's coming in hot. That's for sure. So I do love the passion and just the arc that he's been going through right now has just been incredible.
And I'll make a note too, is, you know, even though it was very much seemed he was against us there for a time, and maybe he was, he still called in. He still listened.
That's true.
He still brought his issues to us. So that says a lot about him as well.
For sure.
And we had the pleasure of hearing from our listeners as well, while they were experiencing the arc of Pastor Tater and him, you know, admitting that he was wrong and going through restoration and asking for it. I heard stories of our listeners just in tears, tears of joy.
Yeah.
Because of what's going on. And I think a lot of people having tears of joy because they know what's around the corner for him, because they themselves are experiencing that. So it's hope, man. It's tons of hope.
I love it. That's love it. Thank you so much. So also in season 2, we heard from Mrs. Tater. For the record, she sounds like the sweetest person ever.
What do you say, Pastor Joel? What is your phrase?
She's sweet as peach pie.
Sweet as peach pie. Man.
Every time I talk to her, it's sweet as peach pie.
Man, and I love that she's calling in. This brings me to like season 3. Are there any new people coming into season 3 that you guys could share, if any?
There might be. So I guess I'll say this.
Yeah.
We still take a call every show.
All right. I love it. I love it. So I get it. That's awesome. So follow up to the Miss Tater question. This is for Pastor Joel. Mrs. Tater sure seems to be pretty sweet on you, Pastor Joel. She seems really, really excited to talk to you. I think she likes you too, Pastor Jonathan, but there's something about Pastor Joel that she's really sweet on. So as a single guy, how do you handle these women who are really flirty with you?
I call Pastor Jonathan and say, what do I do, man?
Oh,
that's a great step. Great step.
No, I mean, it's a funny question, but I'll answer it seriously, like in a way where I think might actually help some guys is I try to treat every woman the same.
Yeah.
Whether I find them attractive or maybe not, or if it's somebody I do want to interact with or maybe not, or it's somebody, you know, that maybe is frustrating or somebody that's intriguing, whatever. All these different categories, I try to treat them all the same. And that way that looks is by treating them with respect and by loving them and really just being focused on being me towards them and trying to give them whatever they need. So really with her, it's fun. I think she's drawn to me just because I'm putting words to her feelings. I think there's a lot of things that her and Pastor Richard have discussed over the years, especially doctrinally and biblically, because they've been in ministry together for so long. I think a lot of what me and Pastor Jonathan are teaching on What the Flock is reaching her in a way where it's just putting words to her feelings. And
Yeah.
I think that's why she would feel the same way about anybody doing what me and Pastor Jonathan are doing. It's the truth she's experiencing, I think, is what she's really drawn to.
For sure. For sure. Thank you, Pastor Joel. Thank you so much.
Thanks for letting everyone know I'm single.
Yeah. Hey, you bet. Pastor Joel's phone number is 1111. Okay.
555.
So in season 1, so really the overarching thing is talking about topics that have caused people so much damage they don't want to go to church. Season 1, I looked at it as like these kind of tangible things of like drinking, smoking, reading your Bible, going to church. Season 2, I see this theme of like intangible things, like who is God? Maybe a little more doctrine focused, more intangible things. So based off of that, where is season 3 headed in terms of like a theme or a topic?
Yeah, great. So season 2, you're right. I like the way you see it. I would even back up one step further and say we did have a theme of season 2 was really salvation. That's how it ended, right? But it started with, you got to know who the God is who's saving you, right? So season 2, everything was pushed through. What are the 15 episodes we need to cover in order to follow this salvation arc?
Yeah.
So I can tell you, season 3, we've done the same thing. We have 15 episodes that are all pushed through this one theme. And that theme is, what do I do after I'm saved?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's it, man. That you nailed it. It's like, what do you, that's, I think, a lot of where the struggle is. People get saved. People start reading their Bible. They start praying. And now what? Now what do I do? How do I make progress in this?
For sure. Awesome.
And that's, I mean, me and Pastor Jonathan have a lot of stories of people we've helped who've been hurt in that exact area. Not just in each specific topic we cover, but in the overarching theme of what do I do after I'm saved? With people who've literally had pastors tell them, you're good. And be left with like, so what do I do now? And your answer is, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
And it's honestly and I'm not even, I think these pastors are doing the best they can with what they know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I won't even fault their intentions, but but it's sad and it actually is damaging people.
For sure. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, these are really heavy topics you guys are discussing. So even just to like send these out to the world, like, is risky. So like, have you guys had to take on any like pushback from these being sent out, or now that they are sent out, anybody coming after you of like, you shouldn't be doing this? Have you guys had to deal with any of that?
A little bit, especially because we've been, our podcasts, well, I mean, it's kind of part of the brand of what we're doing in our churches too. So a lot of it is lumped together in the oppression we experience from, frankly, from other religious leaders and churches in the area we live are coming after the podcast similarly or in conjunction with coming after our churches or stuff that we have on our websites and animations and YouTube videos we've published to help people understand who God is better. And the podcasts get lumped right within that. But that never, I mean, we've been dealing with that so long. It's like when we're doing this podcast, I'm not really thinking about the people who are going to come against us. I'm thinking about, this is another way, a unique way, a fun way for us to continue to get the resources that God's given us out to the masses. And honestly, I'm not surprised by what comes after us anymore, what comes against us anymore. And
Sure.
I just need to keep growing and handling it well. That's what the way I see it is. Every time it happens is just like take my game up and try to grow in spiritual maturity in response to the persecution. Because I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. And if anything, the more truth we deliver, the more it'll come against us. So
For sure.
It doesn't happen a lot to Pastor Joel and I,
Yeah.
as much as it used to. I think we used to get kind of the brunt of a lot of stuff back in the day.
Okay.
But now what I feel like it happens is people come after people in our church.
Okay.
Or our friends. Like that's more of how it happens. Like we have a show called What the Flock, or we have an advertisement, or we have an ad, whatever. We put these things out there. We take, and you're right, Ryan, we do take risks when we do it. And we put those out, and very rarely do people come to us and say, hey, why did you do that? Hey, I was really offended that you dressed up as a hot dog to promote your church service in the park.
Right.
They go to someone else and go, that guy is dressing up like a hot dog.
Can you believe he did that?
Right. And it's like, like stuff like that.
Sure.
And they go to other people. So what's interesting about it is it's something that Pastor Joel was talking about getting better at handling it. Part of how we are getting better at handling it is training other people how to handle it the right way when it happens.
Yeah.
So when someone says something about Pastor Joel or I or our podcast, we are trying to help people, our listeners, our friends, our family, people who care about us, ask, the first question saying, did you express your concerns to Pastor Joel or Pastor Jonathan, the person that you have an issue with? And man, it is so crazy, but how often that shuts things down.
Yeah.
Just by that, and maybe people are still talking, but it kind of slows people down from continuing to bring it up to that person that asked them the question, if they came to us or not. So,
yeah.
And we've learned that what tends to happen is when people have an issue with a person or what a person is teaching or whatever, if that person doesn't intend to actually go to the person they have an issue with, then the person they have an issue with is the last one to hear about it.
Yeah.
So me and Jonathan, we often hear about the oppression that's coming against us through anybody but the person who's against us. So, but we did have, remember in season 1, Pastor Jonathan, we each had like right around the same time an interaction over our Facebook pages when we were sharing the podcast episodes. And that was something we've talked about in a previous interview, I think in our season 1 press tour, but so yeah, it happens. But I think one of the reasons I think Pastor Jonathan and I are so adamant to get our people trained up is because that's what prevents people coming after you too.
Sure.
I think unfortunately one of the reasons people don't come after me and Pastor Jonathan anymore and they go after our people is they think they can get away with it with other people. I think they're stopped coming to me and Pastor Jonathan because they know they listen to our podcast and they probably sit there and think, well, I don't want to argue with these guys. I don't want to be shown where I'm wrong. Let me talk to somebody else who I think I'm smarter than, and maybe I can get them to see the issues that I have. And it's all just more abuse, and it's more whispering, and it's sowing seeds of discord, and it's all just massively, massively damaging the unity that God wants in the church that He's created.
That's so good, and that, I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth in the sense of I think you guys have shown that you know how to handle these confrontations so well. So why would I go talk to you about this? I might not get what I want out of it. So I'll go after somebody else. So I can see that. The other part too, it's like the flip side of the people that maybe the naysayers, it's like, if they just listen to the podcast, the effect of that is they won't have anything to confront you guys on. Even if they don't agree with it, they would know how to handle this stuff better. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And we encourage that, we encourage people to, the episodes do build off of each other. So start from episode 1. You see an interview with us and you hear a certain pot. Why don't you go to the very first one and listen to it? And if you learn anything at all, or if you enjoy it at all, listen to the second one.
Yeah.
Etc. etc. Like, the damage comes when things are taken out of context.
Right. That's great.
I isolate the thing that I want to hear that demonizes someone, and then I use that against them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely the culture we live in, right?
Yeah,
sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that really plays into my next question too. Like, with season 3 on the horizon here, what if somebody never listened to season 1 or season 2, and also they see this pop up like, "Ooh, season 3, episode 1, I want to listen to this." Any advice for that person who just wants to jump into season 3?
Give it a shot. I would say I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody was right now with season 3 about to come out, if somebody's already saved, they're already a born again Christian, maybe season 3 is a great place to start. My advice would be, at that point, keep listening. And if there is anything we say, if there's any terms we're using, any doctrine we're talking about that you're confused about, then look back before you judge that we're teaching wrong. Look back to make sure maybe they covered it in seasons 1 and seasons 2. I mean, I would encourage everybody to start from season 1, episode 1, just because it's great information. They're very re-listenable episodes as well. Plus, I think one of the biggest things people would miss out on by starting just at season 3 is the growth that you brought up, Pastor Ryan, of Pastor Tater from seasons 1 and seasons 2. You're not going to get that when you just see, because he does call in early in season. I'll say that you will hear some Pastor Tater in season 3. If somebody just jumped in, if they're learning stuff, great. I'm not going to tell someone they have to start at season 1, but
sure,
you'll definitely be missing some stuff. So it wouldn't hurt to go back.
Got it.
And I would say, if you are going to go back, go to the God's nature stuff. Where does that start again? Is it
that's the very beginning of season 2?
Yep.
That's where I would start.
Like,
you can like listen to those. I think you can listen to those 6 episodes, and I think that's what I'm going to call my shot here and say that's what we can point people back to. Like, at least go back to here. Go back to this spot. Listen to these 6. Now, have fun. Now go play. Go listen to that however you want, out of order.
Sweet.
Go nuts. But those are so important.
Yeah,
they are so humongous. It was the doctrine that is the foundation that we, Pastor Joel and I, built our life upon.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna disagree with that, if you're gonna come against us because of that, let's just stay there and let's talk about those 6 episodes. And if you can't get off of those 6, it's like, that's awesome. Let's talk. But I think take a ride on those 6 and then wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
But
I agree. That would be great. And I think it'd be hard to listen to those 6 for a first time listener and to not just finish off season 2 while you're at it.
Sure.
Unless you have issues with those first 6 episodes, but there is some banger episodes after that too. But you're right. That would be a great, if you wanted, like, what's the most efficient way to get caught up? Start season 2, episode 1. at least listen to those 6 episodes. That's good, PJ. I like that.
Sweet. That's awesome. Great advice, guys. Thank you so much. So we're going to wrap it up. I got one more question for you guys. Actually, we're going to play a game. I like games. Do you guys like playing games?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's called elevator speech. Boop.
Uh-oh. Can I
You have
change
an
my
elevator
answer?
in there?
Yeah.
Wait, I
No.
meant to say I like games I'm good at.
Yeah, right. You got it. So, in 30 words or less, pitch season 3. Why would people want to listen to it? So, who'd like to go first?
30
Yeah.
words or less. Go ahead.
30
Pastor.
words or less.
Okay.
You want to go first?
No, but I will.
I can go. I can go first. I'll try.
Go ahead.
So
Go
this,
ahead, Pastor
so
Jonathan.
the question is, why should people listen to season 3? Or I'm pitching season 3 to our listeners.
Wait a
Pitch-
minute. Hold on.
Yep.
If I knew I could re-ask the question in order to stall you before I gave my answer, PJ, you're
Stalling.
a genius.
I gotta stall somehow.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get a drink of water here.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes. In 30 words or less, pitch season 3 to your listeners.
What do you do after you get saved? No answer? Find out here in season 3 of What the Flock.
Wow.
That was 20 words.
20 words? Man.
Oof.
That might be a record here at the Ryan Swow podcast. 20 words,
That was
Pastor Jonathan. Might have to put that up on the board here. So 25 was the record. So this is great. All right. So Joel, Pastor Joel, thank you, Pastor Jonathan.
This is also a good way to slow things down.
Yes, that's great. Man, learning so much. Thank you, Pastor Jonathan.
Okay. All right. Let me give it a shot here. I mean,
So
Pastor
Joel,
Jonathan gave the elevator speech.
was great.
So I'm just going to wing it and try to do something different.
In 20 words or
In
less.
20 words or less.
No, 30 words. It's still 30. It's still 30.
So Pastor Jonathan said, what do you do after salvation? I'll say this. For those of you who are frustrated with your church and who have been given answers that have only made you more frustrated over time about what to do after you're saved, listen to season 3 of What the Flock.
That was great. 47 word. Was it 47? It was
Was it?
7 words.
See, I try to overwhelm the counter by just talking really fast.
That was it. Wow. Still great. That was great. Both of your answers were so awesome. Man, I'm so looking forward to season 3. Thank you once again for all the work you guys have done on season 1 and 2. Season 3 is coming out soon. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the Ryan Swow podcast. Pastor Jonathan, Pastor Joel, thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me this evening. And remember, if you guys have been hurt by church, they're there for you.
Thank you, Pastor Ryan. The Ryan Swow podcast was great.